Hey, I'm Kenneth Wajda. I'm a professional photographer here in Colorado. Welcome to another one of my photo chats, all things photography. So today I want to talk about a format that I am getting more and more into, and it's 8 by 10. Because there's something about 8 by 10 that changes the way people respond to the camera and changes the way I meet people. So this is an old Century number 2 from, I think, 1902. And Kodak later bought the Century brand, I believe. And it has a Gertz de Gore 12-inch f6.8 lens on it, which is a nice portrait lens. It's equivalent to like a 300 millimeter lens on a large format, and it's like a 40 to 50 millimeter lens on a 35 millimeter aspect. And there's something about the way that people respond. And so what I've done was I went out to my local lake. It's been like a project I started, and this is going to be a summertime project. And I realize when I go out to make street photographs, I just take a camera, usually a DSLR like a D610 with a 28, or if I'm shooting film, a Leica with a 35 or a 28. And I'll just go out and I'll just walk and shoot and walk and shoot. And I don't know where I'm going, and I never really stop walking. I just kind of meander to see what crosses my world as I'm walking around. And as I pass, I shoot. And with the 8 by 10, I want to get to the point where I'm a known 8 by 10 portrait photographer and people are hiring me to come in and photograph their grandparents or their family reunion, but they want to do it on a special 8 by 10 and make a huge portrait for their home. But I don't get enough of those calls. I don't get enough of those commissions. But just like street photography, the only way to do it is to go out and do it, to go get it. And that's what I'm doing with the 8 by 10. I'm just going out to the lake. And there's a bench that happens to sit in the shade right around 6 o'clock when the light is getting beautiful, between 6 and 8 o'clock, 8:30 right now, this time of year. And I just set up the 8 by 10 on a tripod. And it's fascinating because I'm facing the lake, the bench is facing the lake, and the sidewalk is behind me. And looking into the ground glass, I can both see the lake and I can also see the reflection of people walking by and see their expressions. And some people stop and chat. And I make a point of discussing what I'm working on. I'm making portraits. And if I connect with them, whether they have a really good look or whether they're somebody that I think that is a really interesting person because we chatted, then I'll ask to make their portrait. And the biggest thing I would say is I need to remember to never let anybody get away that is really of interest to me. Because yesterday I was really sad. I had gotten to the lake, and as I got there, I had brought the camera out and I was pulling it up to the tripod and setting it up, and I saw an older gentleman walking with a very young girl. So I'm thinking it might be grandfather, granddaughter. And she's got a fan of eagle feathers, maybe a dozen eagle feathers. And as she walks by, I go, "Do you collect those?" She goes, "Yeah, I found them all." And they kept walking, and I wasn't in a position to photograph them yet. I was still setting up, and they didn't even see the camera because it wasn't open. And I thought, I'm just going to let them go. And when they come back, because I'm right at the edge of the lake that most people walk past and then they come back, and most of the homes are on the other side, so I'm like, they must be coming back. And they never came back. And I so wanted to get a photo of one of him and her together and one with just her. Oh, and those would have been so beautiful. But you don't get what you don't make, and you cannot wait. Don't wait. The old line of, if you see something that's really of interest to you and you are driving, stop immediately. Don't think about it, because once you're a half a mile away, you're not going to go another half mile back. You have to do it now. If you see that girl with the eagle feathers, stop now. Hey, I'm just setting up. Can I take your picture? The worst you can get is a no. And that's a good example of you never know what you're going to find. That's a street photo. It's going out and saying, if I go out every day, some people will start to recognize me and meet me, know me. Some people will be new, and every day there's a possibility of meeting somebody new, another person with eagle feathers, who knows, a very variable thing. But if you don't go, you don't find anything. And to me, I want this to be a summer project of making portraits and making portraits of people that I find in different places to see who I can find. It's almost a discovery of, if you take this kind of an apparatus out, it's large. It's a big beast of a camera. It doesn't weigh that much because it's wood and it's lightweight, but it's a beast of a camera. If you take this out frequently, it's almost like a puzzle of like, who will you meet? Who will I meet today? I went out one day, a couple of days ago, and the light was going under the clouds and it was really kind of dim, and I really thought, I like it when the sun is coming down low over the lake and it's beautiful light on the subject. And that day there wasn't. It was kind of a drab, cloudy light. And I had the camera set up and somebody came by and we ended up talking. But I said, I'm not going to photograph today because of the light, but I would love to come by another time. But we ended up having a great discussion. He was from the East Coast like me. We were talking about where we grew up. I gave him a card with my work. It's a way for me to also show people what I do, so that's always a good thing. And I just don't know who I'm going to meet. But I know I won't meet anybody if I stay at home waiting for the phone to ring. I have control over making portraits if I show up. And I have one that I made the other day. 2 young guys were walking by and I said, hey, can I photograph you guys? And so they posed, and I'll put that in the show notes. You can see it. And it's, again, one of those things where the more I go out, the more I can find people to photograph. And then an interesting aside, yesterday, I thought I'm going to bring out the ebony 4x5 and bring that out instead of the 8x10. And I brought that out and I set it up. And the ebony 4x5 is only this big. And I set it up and it really didn't look like anything to me. It felt like a dinky small camera, which is fascinating that 4x5 would be considered small, but it just didn't feel like a big camera. It felt like a small little camera, and I'm thinking people could walk by and not even notice it. It's a very compact camera. This isn't. The 8x10, people notice. The 4x5 almost was unnoticeable. And I'll probably take out the 5x7 some days, which is a little bit closer in size to the 8x10. I think people will notice that. That's also an older camera, so it has a little bit of a old wood look. But it was fascinating to me that the 4x5 could be considered kind of a small camera. Dinky. But it's 4x5. But you figure it's a quarter of the size of that 8x10. Just like 2K is a quarter of the size of 4K. So that's what my summer project's going to be. As a result, I am going to cut down on YouTube videos, and I hope that doesn't make you leave me. Stay with me. But I'm going to do Saturday videos, but I'm not going to do the Wednesday videos because I have kind of run out of things to talk about Leica and real-world experiences. And some of those real-world experiences will be brought into my talk about using the 8x10 for a portrait series or things like that. But I'll be coming out with 1 video a week, and I really look forward to coming up with some new projects and topics to talk to you about, talk about other photographers too, and make my show not just about gear. At some point I feel like I really have exhausted what I can talk about on those Wednesday shows, and give you the best Saturday shows I can. So hopefully stay with me. We'll create some great dialogues, we'll make some great pictures, and I'll show you what I'm making. And I also often encourage, if I'm shooting something on 8x10 and you are too, put links in the comments. I'd love to be able to see other people's work more, and I love that you all make responses. I love that you comment, but I'm also interested in seeing your work. So if you can, make work. And then post it and let others see it too. That's a good thing. All right, that's today's photography talk. Hey, if you're enjoying these, hit the subscribe button. If you can support, hit the Patreon. Thanks to all my supporters. I appreciate you all. I'll be back next week. We'll talk more photography. As always, here's the good light.